What happens when royalty walks into a studio expecting civility and walks out into chaos? When Prince Harry, the man who left the palace to find peace, sits down on The View, he has no idea he's stepping into a storm carefully crafted by one of television's most outspoken voices. What begins as a polite morning chat about purpose and redemption quickly spirals into a televised confrontation that no one saw coming. By the end of it, one of the world's most recognizable men would rise from his seat, remove his microphone, and say words that would echo across headlines for days to come. It was a Wednesday morning in Manhattan. The View studio buzzed with its usual mix of nerves and caffeine. Producers whispered into headsets, makeup artists adjusted lighting, and the audience filed in clutching their mugs, each one stamped with the show's logo. They weren't just here for any guest. They were here for Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, the man who had gone from palace walls to California sunshine, from royal duty to global activism. Backstage, Harry adjusted his cufflinks, the faint glint of silver against a navy jacket and open white shirt. No medals, no regalia, no crown, just composure. He smiled politely at a stagehand and nodded at the floor manager counting down the seconds to air. He'd been briefed: light conversation, gentle questions, focus on his foundation, his work with veterans, his advocacy for mental health. It was supposed to be simple, but plans rarely survive first contact with reality, and certainly not with Joy Behar. The intro music hit. The lights flared. Whoopi Goldberg smiled into the camera. "Good morning, everyone, and welcome to The View. We have a very special guest joining us today. A man who's been at the center of global headlines, a father, a veteran, a humanitarian. Please welcome Prince Harry." Applause erupted. The Duke stepped out, offering that familiar half-smiley, polite, cautious, humble. He shook Whoopi's hand, greeted Sunny Hostin, Alyssa Farah Griffin, Sarah Haynes, and then turned to Joy Behar. She didn't rise. Her smile was practiced, her eyes sharp. "Joy," Harry said, extending his hand. "Harry," she replied, shaking it briefly. "Welcome back to the real world." The audience chuckled uneasily. It was humor, but with a sting. Harry let it pass. He took his seat, posture straight, hands folded. Whoopi started the show warmly. "Harry, it's great to have you. Let's talk about Sentinel, your new foundation focused on veterans' mental health. What inspired it?" Harry relaxed slightly, easing into familiar ground. "Well, I've seen firsthand how invisible wounds follow soldiers home from the battlefield. Sentinel is about creating community, not just therapy, because no one should fight their battles alone." The audience clapped. Even Joy nodded faintly. For a moment, everything was calm. Sunny Hostin leaned in. "That's powerful, Harry. You've turned pain into purpose. People respect that." Harry smiled appreciatively. "Thank you. It's been a journey." Then Joy spoke. Her tone was casual, her words anything but. "You talk a lot about helping people find peace. But do you ever feel like you've caused quite a bit of chaos yourself?" The room stilled. Whoopi's eyes flickered, but Joy waved off any interruption. "You left the royal family, gave interviews about your trauma, wrote a tell-all, made documentaries about your struggles, and now you tell others how to heal. Some might find that a broken bar ironic." The words landed hard. The air thickened. Harry didn't flinch. His expression softened, but his jaw tensed. "Well," he said calmly, "everyone's healing looks different. Mine just happens to be public. I've never claimed to have all the answers, only my own experience." Joy smirked. "Right. But your experience comes with Netflix deals and global press tours." Uneasy laughter rippled through the audience. Harry's voice stayed level. "Joy, I didn't come here to debate my motives. I've been through difficult years, and I use my platform to advocate for what I believe in: our veterans, mental health, children's welfare. If that bothers you, I can live with it." Applause broke out, genuine and loud. Joy leaned back, arms crossed. "No need to apologize, Harry. Just own it. You can't be both the victim and the hero in the same story. It confuses people." Harry's smile thinned. "Maybe the world's big enough for both." Whoopi jumped in quickly. "Okay, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, more on Harry's charity work in Africa. The applause sign flashed, but the energy was uneasy. As the show cut to commercial, Joy flipped her cue cards with a faint smirk. Harry exhaled through his nose, expression steady, but his eyes so sharp now told another story. The Duke had been provoked. When cameras returned, Whoopi's voice carried the same warmth as before, but her eyes betrayed concern. We're back with Prince Harry, talking about purpose, family, and service. Harry smiled faintly, posture perfect. The calm before the next storm. Sonny tried to steady the tone. Harry, what's the biggest lesson you've learned about healing? That it's never linear, he said softly. Some days you're strong, some you're not. But healing happens when you stop pretending you're fine and just let yourself be human. The crowd applauded warmly. For a brief second, it felt like balance had returned. But Joy wasn't built for balance. She leaned forward. Speaking of being human, do you ever regret airing so much of your private life? The book, the interviews, the documentaries. Some people think you've turned pain into a brand. Murmurs spread across the audience. Harry blinked slowly, his tone still even. There's a difference between exploiting pain and transforming it into purpose. I've used my experiences to advocate for others. If that offends you, I can live with that. Joy tilted her head. I'm not offended. I'm just saying it sometimes feels like it's all about you. Your story overshadows your causes. Harry's patience was unwavering, but his words sharpened. I share my story because it connects to those causes. People need to see that rebuilding is possible. I'm not centering myself. I'm trying to humanize the conversation. Joy smiled faintly. But you understand why some people call that hypocrisy, right? You ask for privacy, then do global media. Which is it? Gasps fluttered through the crowd. Harry's tone dropped lower. Privacy isn't silence, Joy. It's control. I choose what to share, when, and how. That's not hypocrisy, that's boundaries. Applause thundered through the studio. Joy's smirk faltered. For a moment, Harry had turned her weapon into a mirror. She tried to recover. Fair point. I just think people miss the old-fashioned royals are the ones who stayed quiet. Harry chuckled softly. And some people miss old-fashioned journalists are the ones who listened before they judged. The audience roared. Cheers, laughter, even a few gasps. Whoopi raised her hands, but the energy was already out of control. Let's not turn this into a debate, Whoopi said. Joy laughed lightly. I'm just asking questions. Harry's voice, calm but cutting, filled the silence. And I've been answering them for years. Usually to people who want headlines, not truth. But if defending myself is being defensive, then maybe that says more about your interviews than about me. The air went still. Joy smirked again, but her voice trembled slightly. You've got quite a temper for someone preaching mindfulness. Harry leaned forward slightly, his eyes steady. No, Joy. I've got boundaries for someone who's been attacked for years by people mistaking cruelty for journalism. The crowd exploded. Applause. Whistles. A standing ovation from half the studio. Whoopi finally cut to commercial. But the tension had already spilled over. When the show returned again, the tone was fragile. You could feel the air vibrating, heavy with what had just unfolded. Whoopi smiled, her professionalism holding the room together. We're back with Prince Harry, talking about his foundation, his life, and his work with veterans. Joy smiled too, but it was tight, brittle. Speaking of life, Harry, she began softly, how's family life these days? You've spoken about peace and privacy, but given the tabloids, the documentaries, the headlines, do you ever wonder if the problem isn't a broken bar but you? The air froze. Whoopi's eyebrows rose. Sonny looked down. Harry blinked, visibly containing himself. I didn't create the obsession, Joy. I've lived with it. The difference now is I have a voice and a choice. Joy laughed. You chose the spotlight, Harry. You left one institution for another. The palace for Netflix. Forgive me if I don't see the moral evolution. Murmurs rolled through the audience. Harry sat straighter. Privacy isn't hiding, Joy. It's about not letting others weaponize your life for profit. Joy tilted her head. Oh, come on. Isn't all these books, interviews, special, so just one long therapy session for the cameras? It's like a royal reality show. The studio froze. Harry leaned forward slightly, his tone icy calm. You're mocking therapy now? That's brave, Joy. There are veterans watching this show who fought to stay alive because someone told them it was okay to talk. You think that's entertainment? The crowd erupted again, louder this time, applause that drowned out every word. Joy's face tightened, but she pressed on. Don't lecture me on bravery, Harry. You've been living in luxury, giving interviews from your mansion, blaming your family for your pain. At what point do you take responsibility for the circus that follows you? That word, a circus, hit like a slap. Harry inhaled, exhaled, and his voice came out soft. You want to talk about responsibility? I've taken responsibility every day of my life here for my choices, my mistakes, my duty. I served 10 years in the British Army. I buried my mother after watching her die because the same press you're now defending chased her to her death. So yes, I talk about it, because silence killed her. And I won't repeat that mistake. The room fell silent. Even Joy didn't speak. Harry continued, quiet but unwavering. You think my life is a performance? That this is PR? No, Joy. It's survival. It's trying to make meaning out of something that almost destroyed me. I'm not asking for your approval. I'm asking for humanity. Thunderous applause. Whistles. The studio shook with sound. Joy forced a smile. Well, I didn't mean to upset you. Harry cut her off gently. I'm not upset. I'm just tired. Tired of having my motives questioned by people who profit off cynicism. You don't have to understand me, Joy. But you don't get to mock what I've lived. Whoopi, voice soft but firm, said, let's take a break. The show cut to commercial again, but the crowd didn't stop clapping. When cameras went dark, Joy stared at her notes. Harry took a sip of water. Steady hand, calm eyes. He didn't look at her. He didn't need to. The silence between them said everything. When the show returned for the final segment, the tension had turned to electricity. Everyone in the room knew they were witnessing something historic. Whoopi smiled tightly. We're back, Harry. Thank you for joining us today. Harry gave a small nod. Thank you for having me. But Joy, still searching for control, leaned forward one last time. Harry, before we wrap, do you ever regret how it all happened? Leaving the monarchy, the fallout, the interviews. Do you ever wish you'd handled it differently? Harry's eyes softened. I don't regret choosing peace. I regret that people confuse honesty with betrayal. I didn't leave my familiar. I left an institution that valued image over empathy. I didn't follow my wife here. We walked away together, because peace is worth more than protocol. The applause that followed wasn't louder, it was powerful, deep, earnest. Harry stood, unhooked his microphone, and smiled faintly. Thank you, he said quietly. And as he walked off stage, the audience rose to their feet. Joy Behar sat motionless, her cue cards untouched. Whoopi exhaled deeply and looked into the camera. We'll be right back, she said softly. Though everyone knew the show was over long before the credits rolled. Outside, in the Manhattan air, Harry adjusted his jacket, took a long breath, and stepped into the waiting car. He didn't look back at the studio. He didn't need to, because that morning wasn't just an interview. It was a reckoning. And by the time the world saw it, one thing was clear: royalty may leave the palace, but dignity a broken bar that stays with the man who refuses to bow to cruelty.